Hello, my name is Tabitha Davies, and I am the co-director and co-founder here at Esperanza Sanctuary in Sky Valley, and welcome to our community garden. So this space here, these 6 garden beds that we have, were created with a grant collaboration with the Cal Recycle Program, Friends of the Desert Mountains, Desert Compost, and Urban Conservation Corps for the Inland Empire. We have our lovely pollinator bed over there that are here for people to be able to utilize to grow their own food. And then we have our food forest, which is our beginning example of how to grow food and become more food sovereign in an arid desert climate. It is also sandy loam, so while it's great for drainage, not great for moisture retention. A lot of people will start their gardens and get frustrated because of the amount of things that die off, because not everything sold at our big box stores is meant for our climate. So on that note, in these 6 garden beds, we composted over 18,000 pounds of food waste and what would be considered tree waste, and put that into healthy living soil that is now growing pollinator plants and food like this head of cauliflower. Let's take a peek. So inside we have cauliflower growing. Because it's near a water port, it's actually blooming a lot more than it would if it was 50 feet away and not near a water access point. So it's very, very happy. We have some that are still near water, but not quite as happy as these guys are. We will generally come through and take the seed heads down here and help save them, so that we can continue to plant our native species and give those out to our community. Welcome to our community composting area. So we again have 8 raised beds. There was almost 30,000 pounds of waste diverted in building these beds, and they are now 2 of them reserved and the other 6 available for somebody to come and start learning how to grow, trial their growing things, and really getting practice before they try to build it at their house. Or if you live in an environment like Desert Edge, 4,200 people live in Desert Edge, tiny homes, RVs, manufactured homes, or they live the van life and they can't be there creating their own garden around their space. We have that space. So you can still feed your family, you can still find community, you can still grow your own food, but you're doing it and it's all automated. So there is no, I'm sick for 2 days and nobody watered my plants and we live in the desert and it is now gone. So we have 2 different systems that we use here for our composting. We have our GeoBins and our Smart Stacks. This was also through a collaboration with Desert Compost and our Southern California Mountains Conservancy and the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy. We have set up about 51,000 pounds diverted in 2025. I don't know what our numbers are at for the month of January so far, but all of the manures that we have on site outside of pigs do get composted in our bins. We also do all of the food waste from multiple spaces in the community, and we have community compost days, which means you get a lovely bucket, you take it home, you fill it up with your food scraps, and on Friday mornings, you come back with a whole group of us and we turn your food waste into soil. This is one of our Smart Stack piles. So if we get in here and we open it up, it's got some nice soil that is being made by all that food waste. Nice and healthy, dark, rich compost as it's turning. You can see some of the white lines are the actual fungi activity that's showing up. And we keep these pretty well hydrated, and we routinely turn them to make sure that we're aerating our piles. But this will actually turn into the soil that we use to grow all of the food that we do on site, the food that we give away, the soil we use in all of our community workshops, as well as the soil that we utilize for growing the food here. So these are some of our community garden plants that are already here and we routinely harvest from them. These are mostly our herbs, but we do have a few random surprises in here. We have thyme, we have arugula, which is trying to bolt, so we're trimming that down, which we mostly just feed to some of the animals here. Lavender, parsley, oregano, rosemary. We have some eggplants, some very nice, beautiful little eggplants that are growing in on here. And I've got another one. Gotta get around my rosemary. Hiding back here. Rogue tomatoes that were from last year's bunch. We have fennel, more tomato, lavender, some bunching onions, more pollinating flowers. And then the fun bed, the bean zone. Kidney beans. We also have dill, turnips, radishes, edible flowers that are also trap plants in this space. And then over here, which has just planted seed. So it's not necessarily that you are failing at gardening, and it's more likely that commercial advertising is giving us stuff that makes it really difficult for us to grow things.
So we work with a really great arborist, and instead of this going to the dump where it would just rot, we turn it into bedding. So in our piles, we have actually had the sharp points removed and it's been mulched. This is palm tree. We use it in the cow pen so that they can properly digest it without having any sort of bloat risk or gastric buildup. What we have found is that a lot of the commercial bedding is prohibitive of this because cows eat everything.
So these are some other mulch piles, and we primarily will use these in our composting. So when we look at how we want stuff to break down, but we can go smaller. So what we're actually doing is not only do we cut down our cardboard boxes and mulch them and use them in the compost, but we will mulch this even tinier. So we have like a 5-week turnaround time from making a bin, caring for the bin, to creating soil that we can then let cure for a couple of weeks and then place out into the community and in our garden beds. We will also use some of these. It just allows us to keep smell and dust down and ensure that we're picking up poop and cleaning it and composting it much easier so that everybody is happy and they have a cushy place to lay. So here at Esperanza's, one of our missions is to be regenerative in our agriculture, which doesn't just mean sustaining what we're doing and making things less climate impactful, but to actually have our footprint be something that gives back to the land. Because in reality, animal care, human care, and land care are completely interconnected. You cannot disconnect them. So this is our first regenerative pasture. It's starting to come in. We have it surrounded with native trees, some food producing trees, flowering attractive pollinators, which will not be accessible to the animals, and some shade trees. So it's really important that we are able to grow something that will feed the nutritional needs of our animals, that we have a structured setup of how often we are putting them into their turnout every day, not just for enrichment, but for forage access, and that they're eating things that are appropriate for their species. Because cows, goats, sheep, and horses all eat very different things, have different gastrointestinal systems and different microbiomes. So being able to pack all of that nutrition in our arid desert climate can be a little bit of a challenge. And I will say on my end, that's where my school, Unity Environmental University, has come into play really heavily, because I've been able to take all of the nutritional information that I've learned in class, pick my professors' brains, and develop a plan for the animals who live here. Because our animals do come from animal control, Riverside County and San Bernardino primarily, they're not always started off in life the best way possible. We have several animals here that were here for severe levels of neglect and starvation. And so their road to recovery has led to a lot of different needs for probiotics, diet health, and support to make sure that they don't have any long-lasting microbiome impacts from that. So this is our regenerative field number 1. And then the second one, and we'll be starting our third one, and in between each of these we'll have food producing plants as well. So not only do we look at the long-term impacts of shade, but also on the ability for them to produce food without insects. So if you ever get a feeling where you would just like to come hang out with a pig who just likes to be brushed and loved on, Winston is one of them. Winston is a pig, and a lot of people don't realize that pigs do need to eat hay. So they do need to have forage in their diet, fiber intake, and not just their piggy pellets. So being able to have access to roughage, whether you have it from a lawn that they can root up and chew on, or you're giving them hay as a nutritional supplement. Hi, buddy. What are you doing? I don't have his name. So this is the chicken compound, which is home to chickens, turkeys, and technically also quail. This is our menagerie. So Levy right here was a Thanksgiving Day save. She's a broad-breasted white. Then we have a heritage breed turkey. They do have a baby gate, which keeps our disabled tortoise hanging out in the safety zone, because they're very good to him. He's very good to them, but he can't quite big boy safely. So the security that we have going on in here is what keeps him from being in harm's way. And they generally have a lot to say. So when you consider getting your chicken for Easter for your kid, because they're really cute, take a second thought, because a lot of times they will end up in the shelter system, because people get a hen chick and it turns out to be not a hen chick. But also chickens are very productive in the ability to become a century hen, which means that they will develop rooster-like features and they will crow even though they were actually a female. So these are our American caracal sheep, and they are a critically threatened species of sheep. These are the only 2 sheep that we have not taken from the shelter. They actually came from a conservation breeding program in Big Bear, because neither of them were a candidate to reproduce. So instead of being fed to somebody. They became part of our educational ambassador team to teach people about the different types of sheep that exist, and also for people to be able to connect with and realize that we have very emotionally complex animals that are very sweet, trainable, fun, friendly, potty trainable, leash walkable, fun little people. So this one is Lenore, and then the one behind her is Petunia, and they are, well, a little bit more relaxed and chill than the goats that we're about to meet. So this is Duchess. When we got her, she was almost 600 pounds. You could see pretty much every bone on her body. And we started a refeeding program with her. We have had her now for about 5 years. And Duchess has pretty much done everything that we've asked her to do. She loves clicker training. She's big on enrichment. She is very silly, but she's very, very, very friendly. She loves being brushed. She loves being bathed. She loves being talked to, read to. She's game for pretty much anything, including just hanging out. We have Minnie over here, who is a little saltier. And she was actually in parades and had a pretty nice little career just moving around in public with little kids. And she just ended up being really not cared for super well. Her family didn't have a lot of time for her. And we had senior horses before. And with senior horses in a sanctuary, generally the time comes to the end of their life where we have to say goodbye. And unfortunately, Duchess was still here with us.
So after about 5 months of trying to find a shelter available friend for Duchess, we were able to bring Minnie home, and the rest is history.
This is Kalis, that's Andromeda, and this little tan mama is Phoenix. So Andromeda is partially blind. She came to us with really significant pink eye. Kalis came to us as a tiny little boop, tiny little 6-month-old baby with his mom. If you go back on any of our social medias, you'll see Phoenix when she arrived here. I'm not quite sure how we were able to get her here in a trailer and still have her standing, but they have just blossomed. They went from being pet of people to coming up and interacting, licking, playing with toys. They're basically puppies, like a 8 to 9 month old puppy with the inquisitiveness of an 18-month-old human child in an adult cow package. And they are extremely sweet, extremely kind, outside of when they get really excited for playtime, and this one likes to try to hip check the rest of them. But we have been working on cooperative care training because right now they have a vehicle that backs up with a chute. They walk in, they get flipped to the side, their feet get trimmed twice a year, but we would really like to be able to do that ourselves with a little less stress every day. So we have been working on them walking on a halter really nicely, as well as picking up their feet so that we can actually take them off little bit by little bit. So Phoenix has been through a lot. And Andromeda has been through a lot too. Kalis, by proxy, maybe, but he's had a pretty cushy childhood and into adulthood, unlike the two ladies that are in here. And Kalis, for anybody who asks this question, cannot make babies, which is why he is in here with them. So we have a neutered male, and then we have 2 females. And so they get to live the rest of their lives having fun, having snacks, not having to stress about things except for which spot they're going to lay down in. And if we're adding a new toy, if it's going to be something that they can kill, or if it's just something that they can play with, because they do like to break toys a lot. So these are our cows. Got the big headgear. Iris, who looks like her coat is always falling out because her coat, she's a mixed with a hair goat breed essentially. So what comes out of her isn't really goat fur. It's like a very thin silky hair. And some of these guys try to pull that out as well. Heidi. We also have Scarlet, who is right here. And Scarlet and Dee are cousins. And Justice is Dee's daughter. So this is Pork Chop. And she was actually transported from the Riverside Shelter to the Coachella Valley Animal Campus, where we picked her up. And Pork Chop is one of those situations where you know somebody really loved their pig and spent a lot of time with their pig, because Pork Chop is unbelievably friendly and sweet. She's shunning us a little bit right now because she's on a diet, because she's gained a little bit too much weight. So when you get your food cut back, you generally aren't in the best mood. She's been here now for about 2 years, and she's just fantastic. She loves people, she loves attention, she loves interaction. She likes the rolling back scratcher the most, but she also likes to play with things in a very forceful, kind of abrupt way. But she chooses if she's going to have her her feet done. She chooses if she's going to be rubbed. She's going to get snuggies. She's very vocal, but she's also extremely sweet.